Welcome to What the Farm Podcast. My name is Rob Sharkey. I'm one of the co-hosts. I'm a farmer from Illinois, and I'm also a host of Shark Farmer Radio.
And I'm the other co-host, Lesley Kelly, also known as Heels and Canola Fields, a wife and a mother who lives in Saskatchewan and who knows how to share stories on Instagram.
Yeah, don't be mean, Lesley. Don't be mean. Because I was actually trying to promote you because what you're doing is pretty cool. Now, it's not my fault that Instagram is the dumbest social media platform on the face of the earth. But let's talk about what you were doing there. What are you doing with Corteva there?
I'm partnering with them for Mental Health Month and just sharing, things that I've learned through my journey with mental health, resources, things that we can do to help our mental well-being. And I put out a video, and you were trying to share it, and you didn't know how to work Instagram.
I was fairly frustrated at that point, and it might have come through on the Instagram stories.
It might have come through because you got a lot of help from people, didn't you?
Well, help is a funny word. Generally, when I say I got help, I would like someone to show me or help me do something without attitude. I didn't get that yesterday, but I had people show me and help me do something with a lot of attitude.
Well, I think one individual really helped, and he is also, just in case something ever happens to you, he's going to be possibly a future podcast co-host. He doesn't have any sleeves. He goes by the name of Carl Armstrong.
You know what? You want to go podcast with Carl, you go right ahead. Podcast co-hosts are a dime a dozen. You know what I'm saying?
He helped you, didn't he?
No, he didn't. He was like so far past. I had already got like 20 people. Well, maybe 2 people showed me how to do it before Carl did. Anyway, very cool. What month is it, Lesley, that you're doing this for?
Mental Health Month.
Okay.
Month of May.
Yes, and it's incredible. As always, you are a champion of trying to break the stigma of mental health in agriculture. So, hey, Lesley, this is for you. All right, Lesley, who we got for a guest today?
Well, you know what? I was cruising the interweb, and all of a sudden I was doing emails, and something popped up on my screen saying Illinois farmer making masks or sewing masks. And I thought, hey, well, you might know this person. And how cool is that? Someone donating their time and their efforts in helping through this pandemic. So I contacted Tammy, looked her up on Facebook, and we have her on today.
Yeah, from Illinois. Of course I know her. Well, there's, 7 million people in the state. But, hey, if you're from Illinois, yeah. Oh, you're from Illinois? Hey, do you know Tammy? Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah. Welcome to the show, Tammy.
Hello.
You are from Highland, Illinois. That's by St. Louis, right?
We're 40 miles straight east of St. Louis.
Okay. Madison County?
Madison County, but I actually sit in the corner of Madison County. I'm almost in Clinton County, which I kind of almost claim that.
Gotcha. Lesley, when I used to be in Farm Bureau years ago, there was a guy that always stood up. I'll never forget. He had like the deepest voices in the world, and he'd always go, you always say your last name and then where you're from. So I'd be like Sharkey Bureau. He'd always go, Campbell, Madison. I mean, every time he'd do this, everybody would lose their stuff because it was just so funny. And now that I'm telling the story, I realize it's not that funny if you weren't there.
Yes, I'll take your word for it or your laugh for it.
So, Tammy, Lesley said she saw where you're doing this, but before we get into the massing, give us a little bit of background of what you do down there.
So, I do alterations and custom sewing for people. A lot of times people say, hey, I need this, and I draw it up and create it for them. I do a lot of weddings, prom, which that's all been canceled and postponed now. So with filling in my time, I started making masks, and I really hadn't planned on it because at the beginning, in middle part of March, around the 17th, they kind of started talking about masks, and then there was a lot of negativity about it. And then all of a sudden, a retired nursing friend, she messaged me on Facebook, and she said, hey, I have some nursing friends at Salem that would really appreciate some masks. And I really didn't give it a lot of thought, but I was going to get my sewing machine repaired, and I was going to run to the fabric store. Why not pick up some extra elastic and some fabric, and why not have some on hand in case somebody, does contact me, I can make some. It's not a big deal. So I kind of searched some videos on Facebook of different things people were doing and different hospitals that were asking for certain things. And I thought, well, I can do this. So I made my first 25, I think, was about the 22nd of March. And those went out the door pretty quick. From then on, my Facebook Messenger all day long was just constantly pulling up a message of somebody that needed 25 masks here and 50 here. And so it really ended up being, I've probably sewed for 8 different hospitals in our area, different individuals. Did some for Smithfield in St. Louis, some EMS crews, nursing homes, just for different employees, some special needs people in a different area. So lots of people, lots of different farmers, actually. Some guys that put up harvester silos needed masks. The biggest challenge is elastic is kind of on a shortage. And I kind of put out a message on Facebook and said, hey, friends, anybody deep cleaning out there, because everybody's cleaning because they don't have anything else to do, can you check your sewing baskets to see if you have any elastic? And my cousin came up and she sent me a picture and she goes, would you be interested in this? And it was 300 or 400 yards on a spool of elastic, which I felt like I hit the jackpot. And my Amazon order finally came in. We ordered it on the 22nd of March and got it the 22nd of April.
So Tammy, in the articles I read that you and your family farm, is that right?
Up until 6 months ago, we raised purebred Berkshire hogs with our kids. Our kids have show pigs, and they do the show pig thing. My husband retired, so he kind of would like to travel and do those kind of things. Our neighbor has taken on some of our better breeding stock, and we'll probably go back into the business in a year or two. He just kind of wanted a break. But we have raised purebred Berkshire hogs. Our kids did the whole FFA, 4-H, traveled with Team Purebred and NJSA all over the country showing. And then when they got done with 4-H, we had the Berkshire hogs, and we're kind of like, what are we going to do with this? And then we started selling to restaurants in St. Louis. So that's kind of where we were up until about 6 months ago. But we plan to get back in it, and our grandkids have show pigs, so it's kind of fun to watch them go show.
Not a bad time to take a break from that, really.
No, not at all.
Going back, I mean, were you a farm kid?
Oh, yes. My husband and I actually met at the fair showing pigs, and that's back when we were kids, and then we decided we'd stop throwing water at each other at a water fight and actually like each other. So, yeah, that's kind of how that got started.
Throwing water?
A water fight in the barn at the fair.
Okay. All right, was that a 4-H fair?
Yeah, Madison County Fair, which is a really nice county fair down in southern Illinois. We have a great 4-H show.
All right, well, how long have you been married?
38 years.
Okay, because my wife and I met at a 4-H dance. So you're saying there is potential for some long run on this stuff?
Yeah, I think so. Our oldest son and his wife kind of met the same way. My parents met the same way, that's for sure, back in the 50s.
Okay.
So they met showing cattle and hogs together, around late 50s.
How did you get into sewing, Tammy?
In 4-H, I had a mom and an aunt with extreme amount of patience that sat me down, and it was fun to sew, but I had one aunt that made me rip every seam that I sewed and sew it again, and I actually learned to just sit and love it.
Why'd she make you rip it out?
Because it wasn't perfect.
Oh, okay. I'm sure besides that, she was a lovely lady.
She's actually an amazing lady. I actually talked to her not too long ago. She's crocheting granny squares for some charitable organization for veterans so they can have Afghans, and she's 88 years old.
Oh, my.
So my Aunt Jean. She really worked with me a lot and taught me to love to sew, not just to sew. And I really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun.
Lesley, do you sew?
I attempt. I actually have 2 sewing machines, and I used to sew way back in college. I made myself like bags and stuff, but I haven't sewed since.
You made bags and stuff.
Crossover corduroy like purses that I could put like a book in, but not a backpack.
Oh, I'm sorry that your sewing career was cut short. It sounds like a true tragedy.
I am not sad because it took me a long time. I enjoyed it, but right now in the house, like there's no place for a sewing machine. But hopefully one day I'll get back into it.
Tammy, these masks
Uh-huh.
here in Illinois, now to walk into a Walmart, a Menards, any of these places, you have to have one. You are making them for, you said, like the hospitals. Now, are there just random people asking you for these masks?
Yes. I think I have about 100 of them cut out that I'll probably work on now, and then I'll have them done by Wednesday or Thursday and just get them put together, and they're going to be out the door. And it just never stops. There's constantly a message on my phone, hey, could I have 3 or 4? I need 10, that kind of thing. And you've learned to be resourceful with all this stuff because a lot of it's not in the store even, that you would normally just go buy fabric and elastic.
How long does it take you to make a mask?
10, 15 minutes.
Is this costing you money?
Well, I bought a lot of the supplies and then people give me donations. And on some of them, when it's not like the hospital or something, I do ask people for $3 just to kind of cover my expenses, that kind of thing.
$3, that's a bargain.
Yeah, it's not bad. But there's certain things like, when you buy a bed sheet, you can cut a lot of mask out of a bed sheet. I do use interfacing and then the elastic, on the rolls, and a lot of that's been donated to me by different individuals. Then the little metal strip over the nose, I got real creative with them, and I actually use aluminum roasting pans.
Okay.
Those are all cheap things from Dollar General, and, you can pick stuff up, and they actually have turned out really, really nice. And I think half of it is I stand to the iron and do a lot of pressing, before and after that I press them. And I think that also is kind of an effective, not necessarily sterilizing them, but then they're kind of clean and they look clean and crisp when I bag them up and they're ready to go out the door.
What about if you had a bunch of vegans that wanted them? Would you make them with itching powder in them?
No, I would be nice.
Come on, Tammy.
No.
Come on.
Yeah, I know.
You can be honest.
Okay, so I could use the stretchier elastic, maybe. I don't know.
That'll show them.
I don't know. Yeah, that's a bad word at our house, so
Elastic?
we don't talk about that. No.
I know.
Vegan.
I'm joking. I'm joking. Okay.
I did a quick math problem here. 1,300 masks at 15 minutes. That's over 300 hours of your time.
Yeah. But my best sewing comes between 9:30 at night and 1 in the morning. It's quiet. Nobody's bothering you.
And, that is 300 Canadian hours.
No, I usually sew. I have so many hours that I set aside a day just to sit down and sew. And if I don't get what I want done, I'll just stay up until it's done. Then I usually sleep better, too, knowing all my orders are done.
I use alcohol myself. But, Tammy, do you use your grandkids? Do they help with the masks?
Actually, yes. I mentioned the one's 5, and she's in kindergarten. And about the very first week we started this lady donated me all this fabric. And I washed it up and pressed it up. And so I cut masks, and I would sew them. And I would say, hey, Millie, how many masks do I have? And she'd count my stack of yellow masks, and she'd cut out a piece of paper and write the number on it and put it on top of the stack. And so she kept track of my colors and how many were in each stack. So it's kind of awesome. I know that's kind of a learning thing for kindergarten, but it was kind of fun.
Hey, there's nothing better than slave labor.
And she still does, I'll say, hey, how many are in that stack? Can you count them for me? And she's really good at counting them because I can go back and check, and she was exactly right. So, yeah, she has helped.
So I'm curious about the masks because you said some hospitals are buying them. Are your masks, are they considered PPE hospital grade?
Well, what they are, and actually I had a nurse, she bought some from me a couple of weeks ago and came back and bought more and has came back and bought more. They gave some to her at the hospital, and they really were not that great. And she actually said, look at this thing they gave me at the hospital. And I'm going to be honest, I don't like to judge people, but it was awful. And she said, we get a certain amount of masks per week or shift, and it has to last. And so they put these cloth ones over the top of their masks to save them so they don't get as soiled. But my masks do have the little metal strip over the top. I cut up little aluminum strips, and my sewing machine sews them straight in. And then I use a third layer on the inside of the mask that is like an interfacing type fabric. And I sew that in and then add the elastic loops. So I can't really say they're N95 because nobody makes that mask except for the companies that are certified for them. But I definitely do my best to protect them. This certain nurse said, hey, I gave it the hairspray test. And I said, what's that? And she said, well, you just spray hairspray, and if it goes through the mask, it's not as protective as others. And she says, your mask, they pass the test. So I'm like, wow, I didn't know there was a hairspray test. So I thought that was kind of interesting that she had tested my mask. She has probably came back in the last 2 weeks at different times, probably bought a total of 50 masks from me.
Yeah, actually, I'm really glad you asked that, Lesley, because I don't know. In my simpleton brain that has never sewed, I figured you cut a square or a rectangle and you attach the two elastic things on there and you called it a day.
No, My pattern is 15 by 7.5, and I fold it. I pin the interfacing in and sew the little strip. I fold it in half, sew all the way around it except for where the little strip is at the top, and I turn it. Add the elastic before I turn it, and turn it, put it to the ironing board, iron it really good, sew the pleats in, and take it back to the ironing board, and I press it one more time on both sides, and then I slip it into a plastic bag. A clean product that, you can't really say steaming it with the iron is sanitized and sterilized, but I feel like it is a good product, to be putting in a bag and letting people have and feel safe with.
Mm-hmm.
And well, I was curious about that because the face mask wearing, like the things that I've read, it's been under some scrutiny because earlier reports said that if it's not the N95, that they aren't helping. And up here in Saskatchewan, if you want to go out, you have to be wearing a mask now. So I was just curious as to how protective the homemade sewn masks really are.
And, I saw an article, and I can't find it back on my phone, but it was talking about, that some of the masks that are being made, and I've seen some really nice ones, and I've seen some other ones, it's like, okay, give it up. Don't do that anymore. I try to keep the cost down because if everybody needs one, not everybody can afford one. And there's neighbors that, I just tuck one in their mailbox and they know I've been by. Then they have one for different neighbors and friends and stuff. And then I've had others just call and they're like, no, let me give you something for it. So that's kind of what I do for neighbors and close friends and stuff. And then people call me and message me. But I try to make sure that I'm putting a safe product out there too. And I have to be honest, I do alterations for people. I haven't taken in any alterations for a month just because I don't know where people are bringing stuff in from.
Sure.
So just to keep my ironing board safe and my sewing area safe, I've only been doing the mask. I plan to go back to sewing here in the next couple of weeks just because I kind of miss a little bit of more than just making masks.
Tammy, I don't know you, but you seem like someone that's got a bit of a wild side, kind of a rebel, kind of a rabble rouser, as we used to say. It seems like you cause a lot of trouble. Now, have you ever been making the masks that have like the skull or the devil thing or one of those wild-looking thing masks? I mean, are you doing that?
No.
You should.
I'm sorry. Well, I actually had a cousin that wanted me to embroider a little smiley face on hers. But as far as it goes, I haven't had anybody give me fabric like that. So I haven't done any like that. Most of mine is the flowery little sheets you find in Walmart. And then if people did bring me stuff by, but I try to make for the guys, these are solid colors or plaid colors just to keep them looking masculine. These guys don't want to be wearing pink flowers for a mask. So anyway, but
that's true. Very true.
My husband is actually camo that somebody gave me.
Oh,
He went to the bank the other day, and the lady said, "Where's your mask?" And he said, "I don't need one in my car for the drive-up window." And he said he was trying to tell the lady that I hadn't made him one. And I said, "You have one." He goes, "Yeah, I know I do. I just trying to give her a hard time." But
wow.
yeah.
I'm glad you publicly shamed him on a podcast.
He won't hear it.
I've been looking for masks on Etsy. And kudos to you, because there's some masks that I really like. They look great, and they run between $30 to $40. And you are doing this through donations just to cover your costs, but not even like the cost of your time. So what you're doing is pretty awesome.
Well, thanks. Well, I just feel like $3, and if I can crank, if I'm really doing an assembly line, I can get quite a few done in an hour. You know, that they're cut, they're ready to just pin and go on the sewing machine. It doesn't take me very long to do them. I don't want to make a whole lot of money on this. I just want to make sure that everybody's safe. You know, that's the most important thing. And if they can't afford them, here's the mask. So.
See, this is fantastic, Lesley, because Illinois takes so much crap, right? Because we're this awful state that is no good. It's all Chicago blah. This is a perfect example of the people from Illinois that I know. This is the way we are. So, Tammy, I really thank you, because it seems like such a struggle to find good stories out of our home state that you and I both know there's incredible people here, but the numbskulls get all the news. You know what I'm saying?
Well, welcome to Southern Illinois.
Oh, don't start with that.
Can I just add that I found Tammy?
Thank you. Thank you, Lesley. Yeah, I'm going to find a guest from Saskatchewan and say, "Oh, do you know Lesley?" But they probably will, though. That's the thing.
Well, if you guys want, I'll send you some. Give me your address.
You know,
would you?
I do, but I don't want to take one away from, like, you know, a hospital or something.
No. Actually, I'm going to be really honest. The first 4 weeks was hospitals, assisted living, nursing homes, that kind of stuff. The last 3 weeks and this week, I actually have a church that I'm making them for. And then I'm not exactly sure what they're planning on doing with theirs, if they're giving them out to different parishioners or, you know, people so they can go to the stores and that kind of thing. But mostly it's businesses and individuals that have been the last 3 weeks. And like the order I'm working on now for the church is like 100. But I have no problem with mailing you guys some.
I've got yes, and I despise wearing this thing because it makes me cough. I think the fibers, because we've got the good ones. We had some, you know, for like sanding and that, and so we've got the whatever.
Yeah.
You know, we had, I don't know, like 5 or 6 of them. But you wear them, and I can't wait to get them off. So I'm actually jealous of the people that have the cloth ones, because I think those are better.
And like these are like a microfiber, so they're super soft. And if the ears thing isn't too tight for you, it's not terrible to wear, because I kind of make the little plate for over the nose, and it kind of fits your face. It's not going to fall off. I've seen some people that they look like they're falling off their face. I've even had people say, "Hey, I've got a larger size head. Can you make it a little bigger or make them for kids' sizes?" And I kind of measured it out and have an actual size. Tell me how old they are. And that's kind of how I do it.
It's very cool. Very cool.
Do you think that sewing is a lost art?
Yes. That's one thing with maybe this pandemic. People went and bought sewing machines and sit down and go, "I can make a mask." And I've actually seen some people do some really nice ones, like what I do with the sewing and alterations. And my main business is I upscale wedding gowns to christening gowns. That's my favorite thing, when people bring me their wedding dress and say, "Could you make me a christening gown out of my wedding dress?" And there's nobody that does it. And does it fit? Is it made nice? I do a lot of the French heirloom sewing with smocking and those kind of things. And people don't know how to do that anymore. It's kind of sad. And I've had a lot of people say, "Hey, can you teach me how to sew?" And I really wish I had time to do sewing classes, because I really would. I judge 4-H in our county and other county projects. And you need to encourage these kids as much as possible to keep sewing. That's important, you know. So yeah. I do think it's a lost art, especially people being critical, that it's made right. When you turn it inside out, it should be just as nice inside as it is on the outside, and not a bunch of thread hanging on it, that kind of stuff. But, I mean, as far as the lost art with that, yeah, I do feel it's a lost art.
Tammy, you'll have to go back and listen to one of our podcasts. The name is escaping me now, Lesley, but it's a young lady who is trying to make canning hip again.
Uh-huh.
It's a lot of these lost
Carly
art.
Rempel.
Who?
Carly Rempel.
Yes.
Carly Rempel.
Yeah. I mean, it's very cool because I feel like that's a lost art. The stuff that you learned in 4-H, it seems like that's just nobody is doing that anymore. So it's good to see people like yourself, people like Carly. I mean, it's just fun to talk to people like you. But I'm still not convinced that you seem like you're hiding something, Tammy. You seem like there's some. I mean, we're sewing, we're being nice. You are from Illinois, so I'm assuming that at some point you've helped hide a body.
No, not really.
No? Okay. It
No.
must be something else.
I'm just this country girl that lives on Grandma's farm I was raised on, and I just thought my grandma had the best simple life, and I'm going to be real honest and say there's nothing more fun than sitting and canning when you've got a nice garden full of produce.
Yes.
So we're waiting for the weather to kind of warm up and not be so wet. I'm kind of antsy. I do have plants here sitting in the kitchen. That was one of our things that I did with my granddaughter. We planted tomato seeds. So I have tomatoes growing in my kitchen and kind of anxious to get out there and plant them. So anyway, it's just fun farm life, you know?
Well, be patient. I mean, I'm sure the ground will be warm enough by July.
Well, I better be sooner than that, because I actually planted lettuce on Valentine's Day, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to get to have a salad for Mother's Day.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. Can't do that in Canada.
No.
No, I'm very jealous.
Lesley, do you know what I've had Dan, the man, doing today?
Planting a garden?
No, I've had him completely getting my grain drill every single canola seed out of it because I don't want any wayward canola seeds anywhere on this farm. I know where they're at. I know we're going to mow them before they hit seeds. I don't want any rogue canola. Those things are the smallest seed on the face of the earth. I don't know how you deal with them.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised that you're making him do that. That's not very nice or kind of you.
Well, that's an easy job. I mean, it's raining out. What else is he going to do?
Well, why don't you want to have blooming canola all year, for other years to come too? It's like the gift that keeps on giving.
That's the one thing. That's what people have told me. Is once you have canola, you always have canola, and I'm gonna prove them wrong. So when that thing's done blooming, we're gonna mow it off. There will be no wayward seeds, and we'll move on from there.
Good luck with that.
I'm gonna, yeah. I'll come and just spread canola around.
Did you see me planting it? I was actually wearing high heels.
Oh, I did not see that.
Yeah, it's because that's a lie.
That'd be kind of painful.
Yes. Well, Tammy Brink from Highland, Illinois, thank you for representing a great state with great people and a great story. It's sad that it's so rare, but I really appreciate what you're doing, and I'm glad we could get this story out there.
Well, thanks. Let me know if you want to mask.
Yes, we'll definitely do that. The freight to Canada is literally $1,000, but hey, you've already offered, so it is what it is. Tammy Brink, thank you so very much for talking to us today, and to everybody else. We hope you catch us next time.
It was a pleasure. All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.